Lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menin. My name is Kwasi Bonsu, aka Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm an entertainment attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist. And today I sit before you as the host of the Lion Voice vlog. Welcome forward. This is part 2 of our 130th Earth Strong celebration for His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. We're celebrating the birth of Lidj Tafari. This is such a great occasion. I'm recording this not long after chanting Naya Bingi Isis. I put a little clip on my IG page, gloriful, give thanks for all of the ones that came to Washington DC from near and far. We had brethren and sisters from New York, from Philadelphia, VA, Maryland, of course Washington DC. Mighty strength. So we just want to say heart of celebration to the entire family. This episode, episode 29 of the Lion Voice vlog, we're going to go into the history of Lidj Tafari. But before I go into that history, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to thank all of the ones who have been going to www.dejazmatchkwasi.com, booking consultations on the creative side. Those of you who have also been booking the entertainment law consultations, I just want to say thank you for supporting the platform, the knowledge that we put out, and we really full joy the one-on-one interaction with the ecosystem. We want to come as a servant, and we want to thank all of you who again have reached out for consultation either on the legal side, through the Rose Law Firm, or on the creative side through Haile Bonsu Unlimited. We definitely do give thanks. Also, we're getting ready. We've talked about the Patreon. We've been working on the content, so we're going to be launching the Patreon. As we curate, I'm deciding that the Patreon is going to be more the personal life, the land development in Africa, you know, the different trods, as I trod. That is going to be, you know, for the people who are really vested and show that investment through the Patreon. The YouTube channel will remain primarily educational, where we can share, we can reason, we can build our kingdoms together while we step out of Babylon jungle. I will show some of those trods on the regular YouTube channel, but you know, we want to differentiate the type of content. Drop a comment, you know, any suggestions that you have, or send a DM. We definitely, again, we're building this content together. I want to also thank all of you who reach out in the DMs, who, when I see you on the street or just in passing, you know, talking about the content, and I realize ones are going back to watch the older videos, and the numbers are slowly matriculating, the subscriber count is slowly growing. This is not overnight, and as a content creator, as I always say, we celebrate our victories, no matter how small they are. So I say all of that just to say give thanks to each and every one of you. You know, as a content creator, you have to find things that keep you motivated. And when I look at my videos, I see several of them are over 100 views, and I ask myself, if I was speaking in a room full of 100 people, would it be worth it? And the answer is of course. That's a lot of people to be able to have the privilege to interact and to share the content with. So as a content creator, always find those small things that help to motivate you, and that helps to motivate myself. So before the big numbers come, to know that we have a small core of faithful ones that are watching all of the videos, who are subscribing to the channel, who are spreading the word, who are giving I the sounds of encouragement. I just want to truly say give thanks. Alright, so housekeeping out of the way, let us go into the Lion Voice time machine and let us talk about the baby boy born in the mountains of Ajerso Godo, the great Lidj Tafari. Alright, let me paint a picture. Alright, let us go into the Lion Voice time machine. And remember, everything I'm saying here you can find in detail in Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior King, my first book, detailing the birth of Lidj Tafari and all the events. So everything I'm saying now is detailed in that book, in stunning detail. I'm just going to give you a quick visual overview. So let us set the stage. We're into the time machine. And you see I'm in my storytelling mood, so I'm going to be a little bit more lively on this video. Let us picture, this is now 1892. Ethiopia is coming out of a massive event, life-changing event called the Kufana, the Evil Days. The Evil Days, we have to set the stage, because we say that there was a drought before His Majesty was born, His Majesty was born, we just kind of gloss over it. But you cannot gloss over the Kufana. It was a demon's paradise. It was like Satan and his armies were unleashed in the mountains of Zion. It started in 1888 and it continued right up until the birth of Lidj Tafari. It started with drought. So we know Ethiopia's 13 months of sunshine. Imagine, high in the altitude, that baking sun unrelenting with no rain. The landscape parched, dry, you have erosion, lack of water. With this drought came plagues. In particular, there was a cattle plague called rinderpest that hitched its ride on Ethiopian, Italian cattle that were stationed in Eritrea, and of course spread throughout the land. This plague of the cattle was accompanied with human plagues, cholera, smallpox, typhus, influenza. Death was at every corner. This was not all. There were also locusts that had taken the land, caterpillars that were eating all of the crops. This was an ecological collapse of a realm. As if the Almighty had turned his back on Zion. This was swarms of tsetse flies. So of course you have a cattle death, you have dead cattle everywhere. So now you have a ripe ground for flies to lay their larvae. This means that maggots multiply through the realm. The Lord of Flies, another name for Satan, ruled supreme on the mountains of Zion. 90% of the cattle in the realm died in Ethiopia. 90%. With the oxen dead, this brought a cease to agriculture. Ethiopia was an ancient land where the farmer used the oxen to plow his field. So without the oxen, the farmers had to plow by hand, which was an impossible task if you're feeding villages. The rough soil, the lack of rain, the soil becomes rock solid. And without that labor, it caused a food chain collapse. We don't have crops to now feed the people. One thing leads to the next. Remember, this is not 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, or 10 months. This is a 4-year famine. How serious was it? 1/3 of the Ethiopians died during the Kufana. This is why called the Kufana or the evil days. So many so much death was around that the scavengers such as hyenas grew fat and lazy, feasting on all the carcasses. There are stories told that Ethiopians had to kill hyenas and eat them because they were starving, but from the lack of food, so they would eat the scavengers, and the hyenas were too fat to run away because they had gorged themselves on the bounty. Imagine looking on a landscape and all you see are dead bodies. Imagine the stench of these dead bodies from the cattle, from the people who didn't make it. This was an apocalyptic 4 years for the realm of Ethiopia. In this realm, we have a young Ras. His name, Ras Makonnen. He'd been recently appointed the governor of Harar. 1889. He and his cousin had fought an epic battle for Harar. They knew what was coming. Ras Makonnen had been to Europe. He had made a trip to Italy. So he, better than many of the realm, many of the independent kingdoms and Ras's, Dejazmatch's powerful elite, he knew better than all that Europe had become a major threat. They were not in the ancient days, they were full in the Industrial Revolution. Mechanized guns, war. This was no longer spears and swords. This was muskets. This was machine guns. This was the age of imperialism. This was the scramble for Africa. Ras Makonnen was a first-hand witness to the strength of the European militaries. He had traveled to Europe, he had seen the Italian forces in their military parade. He was greeted as a prince of the realm of Ethiopia, the most ancient realm of all of the earth. He witnessed firsthand the technological advancements. He shared this information with his cousin and his Jegna Menelik II, who recently, in 1892, he had only recently become the emperor after the falling of his arch rival Emperor Johannes IV, who had died in battle defending Ethiopia against Islamic forces from Sudan. Died in battle, left the Tigrayan forces scattered. Emperor Menelik used the opportunity to crown himself as the King of Kings. This was a land in turmoil. We're painting the picture of the birth of Lidj Tafari, this baby boy who would be born into this chaos. Kefu Khan ravaging the land. Young Ras Makonnen, recently appointed governor of Harar, governing a walled city that had been the home of one of the most infamous figures in Ethiopian history. Lidj Tafari was born in Harar. At the Nayabingiaisis, we chanted, it was 1892 in the province of Harar. A child was born from David's line, Lidj Tafari. So, we have to big up Shanti, who recently passed, who wrote that chant. He was born in the province of Harar. Harar is the fourth most holiest city in Islam. It was an Islamic stronghold. It was the home of Imam Ahmed Grand, or Grand the Left-Handed, as he was known to the Ethiopians, who launched the largest jihad against the realm of Zion and the closest to conquering the land of Zion. His base of operation was Harar. So Harar was not a place that was necessarily friendly to a Christian monarchy or a Christian governor, as Ras Makonnen was. Particularly on the heels of the Kufana, the evil days. These were hard times for everyone. The people of Harar suffered as everyone else. Disease crept through the narrow walled city of Harar, stalked the back alleys. This was not a time of happiness, this was a time of sadness. Ras Makonnen found himself in this city trying to pacify a people he had only recently conquered. These were independent people who saw themselves as independent nation. This was not an easy time to bring forth a man-child. He was there with his wife, who he had recently brought from the capital, Addis Ababa, H.I.M. Zero H.I.M. Beautiful princess who had her own challenges. She was proudly married to Ras Makonnen and dutifully was his wife, seeking to bear his children. But she had suffered 8 miscarriages, 8 children conceived, 8 lives claimed. It seemed like death waited at the mouth of her womb to claim the fruits of her union with Ras Makonnen. In Ethiopia, in that time, a time before the modern world had fully penetrated, it was a land not only of faith, but a land of superstition. And with that superstition came the murmurings that Princess H.I.M was cursed, that her womb was cursed. This no doubt caused her additional stress and pressure that was not good for a mother to give birth to a man-child. Ras Makonnen, seeing that this was not a good time, becoming familiarized with the death that had become status quo during the Kufana, decided in the last months of her pregnancy to move her out of the city of Harar and up into the mountains of Ejerso Godo, just outside where he had a cottage. He felt she could benefit from the cool night air, and so he brought her there. Who was H.I.M? First of all, H.I.M was a child bride. This was the reality, and we can't judge Ethiopia in 1892 by our modern standards, and we acknowledge that Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen ended the practice of child marriage in Ethiopia and encouraged the education of Ethiopia's young girls. But in ancient time, where child mortality was very high, life expectancy was very uncertain, as soon as females had their cycle, oftentimes they were married. And particularly among the nobility, where women were used to cement political ties and marriage was used to form alliances, it was not uncommon. And we saw this with Empress Menen, who was married and was a child bride. We see this with H.I.M, who was married at the age of 12 to Ras Makonnen. Her mother was Wolete Georgis, her father Dejazmatch Ali Gunshaw, and a Roman from Jimma, and a trader in Kandar. So H.I.M, through her mother, Wolete Georgis, and her father, had very differing bloodlines. So this whole Amhara Oromo distinction, Haile Selassie I's bloodline is very indicative to the reality of Ethiopia, where the tribes are together intermarrying formations, and so these are more political distinctions, and we have to really know that the unity of Ethiopia is in her togetherness of all of the nations and the tribes. Wolete Georgis, she, the story has it, went on a voyage to visit Emperor Menelik, who at the time was the king of Showa. He was not yet emperor. He was stationed in Wollo. He had a base of support among the Wollo Oromo Menelik since his days of liberation from the Magdala fortress of Emperor Tedros. So he spent a lot of time in Wollo. So she went there looking for him from Showa. He wasn't there, but Ali Afar, Dejazmatch Ali, was there and took Wolete Georgis into his custody. Sometime later, a little girl was born in H.I.M. As Menelik grew in strength, he at a point had brought Wollo under his control. At that point, Wolete Georgis, having ties with the nobility in Showa, was betrothed to Menelik's uncle, Ras Dargi, and became his wife. And so young Yoshimabet grew up in the house of Menelik's uncle and right hand, Ras Dargi, where she would meet Ras Makonnen, of course, Menelik's cousin, and who also grew up in his house. And so to cement his place, Ras Dargi would have arranged to have this young girl married to Ras Makonnen, who was one of the rising princes of the nobility in the realm, and therefore ensure that she would be taken care of and her place secured among the nobility, which of course would make his wife extremely happy that her daughter's future was secure. And so she was betrothed to Ras Makonnen at the age of 12. Ras Makonnen had another child, the Dejazmatch Yilma, with another woman. So it's likely that he didn't consummate the marriage right away and waited some time for her to mature before he consummated the marriage. And appears was dealing with Dejazmatch Yilma's mother during that period. And this again goes to show that marriage, the overall goal was really that political solidification, bringing the realms together in that unity. So Ras Makonnen, by all accounts, was a man of honor, and I do think that he spent some time, gave Yoshimabet some time. However, there is no denying that she was very young when she conceived her first child, and her youthfulness may have contributed to the miscarriages, being narrow-hipped, or a lot of things can contribute to the miscarriages. So we have to be cognizant of that. So it was that union that brought forth Lidj Tafari. And again, Ras Makonnen brought her to the mountains of Ajerso Godom to be born. His first cries were drowned by thunder. So after we set the stage of this epic 4 years of death, after we set the stage of a mother with 8 miscarriages, of a father struggling to keep his hold on a Muslim stronghold, assert his authority, and win the trust and the hearts and minds of the people of Harar. He did so by building a hospital, first hospital in Harar, providing services, governance for the people. In the context of all of this, have a sign from the heavens. What would any story be without the mystic element? What's the mystic? The mystic is when the dark clouds start forming on the horizon. Thunder and lightning roared the heavens like a lion roaring. We see his first cries drawn by thunder, as he emerged from the womb, thunder and lightning, raindrops. So with the coming of the rains, that means that the entire realm was in a state of thanksgiving. Cosmic energy of all of the prayer, of all the gratitude. This was the portal. This was the entry to this baby boy entering into the world. Showers of blessing, gratitude from Muslim, Christian, non-traditional African religions alike. Every tongue, kindred in Ethiopia would have been giving thanks for these rains as His Majesty emerged from the womb. On the 23rd of July, why is that significant? That's the first day of Leo, astrological lion of the zodiac. So, even the name the conquering lion, apt, as he sits on the cusp, the entry point, the lion entering into the physical realm as a man, no more as a lamb to the slaughter, but as a lion. 1892 also coincides with the founding of Addis Ababa by Empress Taitu, the wife of Emperor Menelik II and hero of Bangladesh, which will take place only 4 years later. She moved during Menelik March on Tigray because at this time, after the death of Emperor Johannes, his son Ras Mengasha, as well as one of the greatest generals of Ethiopian history, Rasalula, were mobilizing Tigray to reclaim the throne from who they felt was a usurper, Emperor Menelik II. However, because of the Kafu Khan, they had to delay their activities. Menelik got word and he marched an army to Tigray. But Menelik, also wise, looking at the devastation on the landscape, decided to halt his army at the borders of Tigray, because if he had to continue with war, he would have no food to feed his army. Tigray was decimated. So this was a time of great instability. And in the midst of this, Empress Taitu, holding the fort at the palace in Mountain Toto, overlooking the valley, used to take trips down into the valley to the hot springs, because she had ailments that these mineral gods inherit. And she decided, instead of going back and forth, let us establish the capital in the valley by these hot springs, and let us call this capital the New Flower. So we know prophetically the New Jerusalem, but a new flower, what is that symbolic of? That's symbolic of the blossoming of a new time, a new era. And this coincides again with the birth of Lidj Tafari the same year. Lidj Tafari is born as a healthy baby boy, so we know the cry is drawn by thunder. And I'm going to leave you this because the episode went a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I had to give you storytelling in this fashion. 40 days after his birth, he's baptized according to the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition. And what happens? He's given the name of Might of the Trinity, Haile Selassie I. And would he live up to that name? Or would he ever? So we give thanks for all those who listen. We also want to add that with the thunder and the lightning, you can imagine that all were gathered around, because Ras Makonnen spared no expense in the best doctors. He also had a military contingent with him, of course, as a general. He had to move with his armed soldiers, defensive, in case anybody tried to take. He also had the villagers of a Jerusalem Godo. You know, when a camp is stationed there, you have people selling, vendors, different things. So there was activity around small one thatched house, which H.I.M then went to give labor. But you can imagine with that thunder and lightning going through the sky, all the people must have trembled, knowing that the Kufana had ended, but humbled in the presence, power, nature, power, the Almighty bringing the rain, thunder and the light. And so it makes sense that if this baby boy's first cries were drowned by thunder, that he would be given the name one to be feared, one to be revered, he who inspires awe, Tafari, Tafari, Lidj Tafari. And so we seal this journey with the knowledge that is a joy, that it's time has come for the lions to tell their own story. And this is the lion's voice.
Lion voice. Well, for unto us a son was born and a child was given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called the Wonderful Counselor, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Them called him Lidj Tafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Them called him Lidj Tafari. When he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Lidj Tafari. The lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Them call him Lidj Tafari. Read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England or Cote d'Ivoire, no matter if you're brown or black like Qatar. Haile Selassie I fi end all tribal war. A time fi gather Mount Zion, fi drive solar car from the car straight to Zanzibar. Who we are? The